Hello out there, Caniac Nation. Thanks for joining us for session 50, AB, session 50. What do you think about that?
This is pretty crazy. Really
Yeah,
crazy.
isn't it? 50 of these things?
It's been almost a year.
Almost coming. I was thinking about it. It was like, I think we're like 3 weeks short of a year, or maybe 2. I don't know. But yeah, it's 50 already. It seems like we just started this. Anyway, session 50 of Caniac Sessions. I'm Griff.
And I may be.
And I am Brandon from The Warning Take.
That's right. We brought Brandon in with us for session 50. He's our recurring guest. He might as well just be part of us at this point, even though he's not officially. But I mean, we've got a nice little group here, and we all appear on each other's stuff all the time. So, hey, thanks for coming on for this. I'm excited to talk some off season. But before we get going here, first things first, we're brought to you by Manscaped and DraftKings as a member of THPN. That's the Hockey Podcast Network. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to announce that Smooth Sack Summer is officially upon us. When you're playing in the summer sun, make sure you're groomed from pubes to bum. Thanks to our friends at Manscaped, you can make this season your smoothest yet. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the ultimate bundle to keep your boys downstairs cool while looking hot. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Get 20% off plus free shipping when you go to manscaped.com and use code THPN. Summertime and the trimming is easy. AB, the Manscaped Performance Package 5.0 Ultra. It has everything you need to prepare that summer bod, buddy. Did you know that?
I did. I just ordered one.
Oh,
yes.
Really?
And use the promo code.
There you go. Hey, look, their 5th generation trimmer features 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads, a standard one for taking a little off the top, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. So get 20% off plus free shipping with code THPN at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code THPN at manscaped.com. It's Smooth Sack Summer, boys. Get on board or get left behind. Caniac Sessions is also promotional partners with SeatGeek. Sign up with SeatGeek at SeatGeek.com. Order your first pair of tickets and use promo code Caniac Sessions when you do so. That's one word, no space between Caniac and Sessions, and get $20 off your first ticket purchase. All right. Got that out of the way. How we doing, fellas?
Doing great.
I'm pretty good. Sorry I was almost late. I had to comfort that dog over there because it was storming really bad and he was losing his mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the look you got going on here.
Do you?
I'm
like
shocked.
Yeah, I shaved my beard. My wife is not happy about it.
Oh no, the last time I shaved mine off was the 2021 playoffs, and I was just letting it grow out. And me and Desiree had pretty recently started dating. I think we were about a year in at that point. And she looks at me, she goes, "Don't you ever do that again."
Well, I did it, and I didn't tell her about it. I just did it today while she was at work. It was after I got off work, and then I did it, and then she got home, and it's been World War III ever since. But it's fine. It's fine. She'll get used to it. Anyway, some things to talk about. This session is titled Off-Season Update 1. This is a series of updates that we're going to be doing throughout the summer, and it's just basically catching up on what's going on with the Canes, talking about it. And yeah, I mean, we'll hit these several times throughout the summer as we lead up to training camp in September, which really is not that far off. It'll be here before we know it. I can't wait. I'm already ready for October. Yeah, but stuff to talk about. So since we did session 49 last week, plenty of things have happened. I think one of the big things that has happened is Carolina officially made official a president of operations in familiar face of Doug Wharf, right? So he is he's been with the organization, or he was with the organization for years. I think it was 16 years or so before he left and went and tried something different. And now they brought him back. But this guy, 16 years with the Canes in various sales and marketing roles. He joined the organization in 2000 and worked his way all the way up to vice president of marketing before he left. During that time, he, as the vice president of marketing, he led the design schemes, video production, promotions, fan development, community relations efforts, all of the above. He in 2011, he was the lead representative for the NHL All-Star game that happened in Raleigh. And he led the Canes through 2 major uniform redesigns. So he has his fingerprints all over this organization. Left for a couple years to go try to do something else. And now he's back to oversee basically everything that happens on the business side of the organization, and PNC Arena, all the upgrades and the development that's getting ready to happen. He's going to be the guy kind of directing, everything. So case closed on that. We knew they were going to hire somebody. I think this is a great hire. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'll just say, going back to a familiar face, I never heard of this guy before. But obviously to have a guy that understands who the Hurricanes are and, went through stuff with the All-Star game when it was in Raleigh, I believe 2009, right? Is that
11,
right?
wasn't it? 11?
2011.
Yeah.
2011. So 2 years off. And then having to do with jersey designs and everything like that. I like it. He's got background experience. I don't know what he did after he left for the Canes, but I know he has really good background after leaving. So I'm happy with it. No complaints, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Brandon?
So this will tie in a little bit to what we were going to talk about later in regards to Waddell. One of the biggest reasons I think this is a great hire, other than everything you guys have already said about him being familiar with the organization and having left a lot of fingerprints on it in the past, is Don Waddell had a lot on his plate running the hockey ops side of things and the business side of things. And I like the fact that now it's getting delegated. You have someone running the business side of things with Doug, and that gives Tulsky and York more concentration on the on-ice product. Great hire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the separation, the segregation of duties there. Don did a good job, but I think that the duties need to be segregated. I think you need to have a president of ops and a general manager. Just makes sense, right?
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with what's getting ready to happen with the arena upgrades and the development around the arena and everything that's getting ready to take place. You need somebody in place that understands the business side of it, that can lead that in the right direction. So I think it's a good idea. Great hire. And so big piece of news there. Also happening this week is the development camp. So prospects in the organization that have recently been drafted as soon as this year and last couple of years as well, all met. They arrived this past Sunday on the 7th, and had a series of on ice, off ice testing. They concluded the on ice portion today with a 3-on-3 tournament, which wasn't televised or anything like that, but you could follow updates. I think Canes Prospects account on X was tweeting all afternoon, so you get updates. And tomorrow they will conclude the development camp with off ice workouts and some educational sessions, and then kind of all break to wrap up this year's version. So any storylines you guys have been following, or anybody jump out to you from the prospects this week?
I saw that Unger Sorum, I think Darren York announced that he's playing in North America this year, whether it's the AHL or the NHL. So that's pretty much the only thing I've seen. Because last year he was really close to making the team, but he didn't. And then he went over to Europe, and it seems like now he's maybe NHL ready, obviously AHL ready. So that's the only thing I've seen with camp.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think Unger Sorum is going to make the team. So last year, I think, let's say you have the roster from from this previous season, and you had that last year, right? The roster we have now. I think he would make the team. I think it wasn't a matter of he wasn't good enough. It's just the roster we had this past season was really, really deep.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, the player he's replacing, Teravainen, who is now gone, as BG just pointed out, Teravainen's being gone gives you that spot for Felix Unger-Sorum. And the cool thing about the way he's going to be deployed, he's not going to be used on the penalty kill right off the hop. He plays forward. He'll probably be utilized on the second power play unit right off the get-go because of his puck distribution abilities. And it's a lot less dangerous to throw a forward to the fire a little bit early. So it'll be good for him to get adjusted to the North American size ice since he was playing on the larger ice over in Sweden, get adjusted to the physicality of the game, everything like that, because I watched him play a lot at the World Junior Hockey Championship. There's not much he can learn if he does go to the American League before you bring him up here. So I fully expect him to make the team. I also think Bradley Nadeau is going to make the team.
Yeah, I mean that's a high possibility. Just a couple notes that I had here, just from kind of, well, basically reading tweets from the organization and various accounts that have followed the development camp closely is, so Carolina's, I believe he was a 3rd round pick. Justin, or maybe he was later than that. Justin Poirier, right?
I think he was 5th.
Yeah, I think that was right. 5th, right?
Yeah.
He's a small guy. I think he's listed as 5'7" or 5'8", but he's 180 pounds, which is kind of a stocky 5'7" or 5'8". But his shot is insane, right? He's got a heck of a shot. I think he scored
51.
Yeah, 51 goals in the QMJHL, which is the first person under the age of 18 to do so since Sidney Crosby. Wow.
Pretty nuts.
Yeah. And he fell all the way to the 5th round. So, I mean, hey, that's somebody to keep an eye on. I mean,
Kaprizov did the same thing. What? He was drafted in like the 7th round, 6th round, something like that.
Yeah, he was late.
Yeah, but a lot of that I think had to do with his Russian contract as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something, the Canes prospects account on X tweeted that his shot is very comparable to Bradley Nadeau's in terms of, how he shoots, his release and all that. So, hey, who knows? Maybe he develops into a
Crosby.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm not going to put that. I'm not going to put that pressure on him.
That's
but,
a very high ceiling, but
I mean, maybe he develops into a top 6 forward, or scoring winger, right? Goal scorer. So we'll see. That's a prospect to definitely watch.
So I think part of the reason if I can just throw this in here real quick, I think the biggest reason he fell all the way to the 5th round, when I was watching the draft, it seemed like there was a big emphasis on people drafting players with size a little bit more this season than there had been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest reason he fell. That being said, the kid can grow until he's 25. So,
right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely somebody to watch. Also, Gleb Trikazov, Jaden Perron, and Bradley Nadeau. Well, we already touched on Bradley Nadeau, but they all had, big weeks as well. Trikazov impressed, apparently. And so, yeah, I always enjoy paying attention to these development camps to kind of see, what our future looks like. And before all these, because some of these guys won't be back for camp. So we will see who comes back for camp, but definitely Felix Unger-Sorum, like AB talked about, he's coming to play in North America this year. Where that is yet to be seen, but I think he's got a shot. So, something to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Any more thoughts on development camp?
When it comes to Felix Unger-Sorum, I can definitely see him at least playing the first 9 games before they have to make a decision whether they're gonna send him down or not.
Like they did Jarvis.
Yeah, I definitely think that he's gonna get an extended look, and so is Nadeau. Because we've got a lot of offense we need to replace, and that's 2 guys that can replicate to some degree some of the offense we lost in free agency.
Yeah, definitely. So Matthew P's here. He says Poirier's ceiling is someone like Alex DeBrincat. Absolutely, yeah, that's
Perfect sense.
That's a great comparison. Another question from him: how many rookies should we have in the lineup before things start getting hairy? I don't even know how to answer that. I think we could see two. I think we're going to see two rookies crack the opening night roster and play on this team the entire season. And we'll get to this. We're going to talk about our roster projections as things stand before we get out of here tonight. But so I won't I won't show my hand right now. We'll hold off on that. But I mean, I think we could see two on this roster for the entire season. I mean, Rod Brindamore, Eric Tulsky, they've been talking to the media all week. There was an interview that they both did with Joe Ovius and Joe Giglio on their podcast. I think it was yesterday. And, you know, they keep hinting around the fact that the rookies are going to get a shot. I mean, some of that's out of necessity. Some of that is because they are good enough. And I don't expect them to bury him down the fourth line. I mean, we saw Seth Jarvis. When Seth Jarvis came in as a rookie, he was given every opportunity to succeed. And I think we'll see the same, you know, with some of the new guys. We'll get to that, though. Another piece of news a few pieces of news. We'll just hit them one at a time. Dylan Coghlan traded for future considerations to Winnipeg. You know, he filed for arbitration, right? Him, along with Martin Necas and Jack Drury, all three filed for arbitration. And the organization decided to let Coghlan move on to Winnipeg, which is fine. I think he played less than 20 games in Carolina throughout his, you know, he was involved in that Pacioretty trade from Vegas 2 seasons ago, also for future considerations, and just never really, you know, his skating ability is not up to par to be able to play on this blue line. So had a really good season in the AHL last year. I believe he was one of the top defensemen in scoring in the entire AHL. I think he was an all-star, maybe something like that. But traded to Winnipeg, maybe he can go up there and maybe he can get, you know, crack the NHL roster. Your thoughts on the Coghlan trade?
I just don't think Coghlan could prove that he was that seventh defenseman. I mean, he has a great shot. I'll give him that, but just the defense was not there. And, you know, we gave him time and, you know, he succeeded in the AHL this year, but there's a difference between playing in the American Hockey League than making that step to play in the big time. So he just never really figured it out. I mean, there were just turnovers on defense. The shot was there, but, you know, he really didn't get a lot of opportunities to showcase that shot. It was more of him playing conservative is what it felt like. But maybe he gets a better start in Winnipeg. It just didn't work out here, and wish him all the best.
Yeah.
Coughlin's one of those guys I think he needs to play in a system that's not so speed-based, something where it's not really dependent on how good of a skater you are, something where they sustain the offensive zone not so much through forechecking, but through like making those really good passes and everything like that, having like a really coordinated entry and everything like that. I think that's where Dylan Coghlan would do well. I just don't think he really had the speed to be part of the Hurricane system. And y'all know I wasn't the biggest fan of him while he was here. I do wish him the best, though. And yes, he has an excellent shot, and that helps a lot of guys get to the league that might not otherwise be there because it's a very, very coveted skill set.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, you know, I think a lot of that is I don't know if it's necessarily arbitration that scared the organization away. I think they were just looking to move him because they don't see him, you know, in their future. I'm not sure how much money extra money he could get through arbitration. I mean, especially because he hasn't cracked the NHL lineup in some time. So, you know, I expect him to be on a league minimum deal and, you know, at the NHL level and with Winnipeg and you know, maybe they take care of the contract before he gets to arbitration, or maybe they already have. Maybe I just missed it. So Yeah, good luck to Dylan Coughlin. But with this blue line, the free agent signings we just made, the the signing of Scott Morrow from the NCAA, there's just no room. So,
Yep.
There's some rumor that Coughlin could have possibly been included as a piece in a larger trade with Martin Necas. So over the last couple of days, there's been some rumors around that said Necas has refused to sign with 3 organizations that the Carolina had trades in place with. One of those being Columbus, right? We heard that we had a deal in place for the 4th overall pick. Necas said he wouldn't sign in Columbus, so the deal fell through. There's been rumors that there was a deal with Buffalo that fell through because he wouldn't sign in Buffalo. And there's been rumors that there was a deal with Winnipeg, and he said he wouldn't sign in Winnipeg either. I don't know. I don't know if any of that, if any or all of that is true, but some of the speculation was that Coughlin was part of that. When the deal fell through, Winnipeg still wanted Coughlin. The organization let him go. So make of that what you will. But here's the thing. Let's just go ahead and dive into Martin Necas right now, since we're on the topic. And that's what everybody wants to hear about. That's what everybody wants to talk about, right? So Martin Necas. We've talked about it. There was the rumors. Well, it wasn't a rumor. It was a report. His father, with a Czech media source, he said Marty didn't want to play in Carolina. He wanted a fresh start. He wanted to play center. He wanted to play power play 1. He wanted to play top minutes, and he was ready to move on. But here's the thing about that. We've never heard Necas say that himself.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm sure there's some truth to it, right? But I think if you presented him in this hand, Marty, you stay in Carolina, you have the opportunity to have a bigger role this year, and you make the best of that role for the next year or two. What does he have? He has 2 years remaining, I believe, as a restricted free agent before he's a UFA.
Correct.
Right? So take a 2-year contract, right? Let's avoid arbitration. I don't think he's going to arbitration. Let's take a 2-year contract. Let's pay you a fair amount. And then we will give you the opportunity. I don't think he's playing center, but we will give you the opportunity to play top minutes, the first power play. You're going to have an opportunity to step up because, let's face it, we need goal. We don't have goal scorers on this team. So you go be that. Then in 2 years, if you want to walk away in free agency, go ahead. And you have driven up your price, and you can go play wherever you want. So I think that's the path we're headed down. I think the organization explored moving him. I think Necas decided that, hey, there's really not a lot of places I'd rather be over Carolina, or at least where they're willing to make a deal or who has the cap space to bring me onto their roster. So, and I know I'm long-winded here, guys. Sorry, I'm just trying to get through my thoughts here. But I think we're headed down the path where he has decided that, hey, I want to play in Carolina, compared to these other places where I could go or have the ability to bring me in. I've got friends there. I know the coaching staff. I know how they play. I know the fans. I know the area. Let's just go with it. And if Marty happens to be listening to this, hey, keep an open mind. You got to give some and you got to take some, right? There's give and take here. You can't just do everything you want to do. Sometimes you're going to have to do what the organization wants you to do. And let's fix this, and let's go out and win some hockey games.
Yeah, I'll say, if any of those rumors are true that he didn't want to sign the here, and here, I mean, it's a perfect opportunity for him to play top line minutes. It's not that he's not playing them here. It's just, I think it sounds like he wants to play center, and he's not going to play center here. And he had an opportunity to go and play center in Buffalo. He had an opportunity to do it maybe in Winnipeg, but Scheifele, obviously, you're probably not going to be the top line center, but you can at least be right wing. In Columbus, you also had a good chance of playing center on the top line. So I don't really know what the issue is. I heard that with that Winnipeg trade, it was rumored that if he went, we were going to get Nikola Ehlers, who has been talked about in Carolina and other teams for feels like years.
Yeah.
So I wish him all the best with whatever happens. I don't hate the guy. I don't dislike the dude. I'm just saying that I think he's just leading this franchise on a path where it's just a waiting game. And, if you're not going to play here, you don't want to play here, then, we're going to try and find something that works. But it sounds like he wants to go to a contender too. But, a lot of contenders don't have a lot of cap space.
Right.
I mean, they don't.
And there's something to be said about winning, right? There's something to be said about having, nobody wants to play. Nobody wants to lose. I mean, you go to Buffalo, you're not going to, I mean, they're getting better, but I mean, winning is a good thing, right? And, if you, the current state of the NHL and the salary cap, if a team is good, they probably don't have a lot of money to spend, especially on a guy in a trade that really they have no idea what his contract's going to be right now.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my thing with Natchez. I'm maintaining the same opinion I had as far as him being here. This is where I halfway agree with Griff and halfway agree with our friend Sam Driscoll. I love to have a defensively competent team like Carolina normally has, but there needs to be one or two of those guys that can just at will take the thing 200 feet and either put it in the net themselves or create an opportunity for somebody else to put it in the net. Martin Necas is that type of player. We're entering whatever you want to call it, a transition year, a retooling. It's not like a full-on rebuild, but I expect a similar start to what we had this season. Everyone's going to panic, and I'm going to be like, no, if they're over 500 on December 1st, be happy. Mm-hmm. This is the time, like we've talked about with Kochetkov, about we need to see if he's a starter. This is a time where I say, let's have, like you were saying, Griff, Nate just needs to do some of the things that the organization is asking him to do. In that regard, I would like the organization to meet him halfway because this is a very, very talented player. This is not some fourth-line guy that's going to be bouncing up and down between the minors at any point in his career, I don't think.
Right.
I would say give him 10 games. Give him 10 games at center, and that's 10 regular season games. Give him 10 games at center and a few during the preseason, so that way you can make some adjustments before points start being on the line. I would like to give him 10 games. And if he hasn't figured it out by then, with the little sample sizes we've had of him taking on center responsibilities here and there, if his face-off percentage isn't above, say, 47%, then he doesn't need to be there. If he's having that hard of a time with the defense, because he's fast enough to play the defensive way that Brendan Moore wants his centers to play. It's just a matter he has to know what to do when he gets there. Do that. If he can get those two things going and not do so many of the turnovers, which is hard for a player like him because he's incredibly fast, and sometimes his feet and his hands move faster than his brain does. 10 games. That's all I'm asking for, just to see, so we can rule it out once and for all. And then at that point, if he goes to play wing or has to play wing, it's in his best interest to play the best that he can, so that way when you're talking about when it's time for him to go somewhere else and get his next deal, then he's auditioned for it.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you. I just don't know. I just don't think he's a center. I just don't think he is. I know. I mean, I want to be an actor, a famous Hollywood actor. Well, guess what?
You got the looks for it.
I'll never be, because I'm just not, right? Because I don't possess the skills to go star in a movie. Okay. Maybe Martin Necas would be a great center in the ECHL or the AHL. I just do not believe he is an NHL center, right? And that's okay, because he's a hell of a winger, right? He's not. And look, centers have to be defensively responsible. I don't care what team you play on. Okay, I don't care if it's your Brendan Moore system or you're playing for Edmonton. You as a center, you still have to be defensively responsible. And if you look at Edmonton's run this year in the playoffs, Connor McDavid played some very good defense. I know he's the greatest player in the world, but still, he's the one of the best the best playmakers and goal scorers in the NHL. Well, guess what? He can still play defense. And I don't care what system you play in, you need to be able to play defense if you're a center, and you need to be able to win a faceoff. Martin Necas is awful in the dot. He looks like that dude goes down to take a faceoff. He looks like he's swinging a
Golf
yeah, there you go. Or I was going to say, when you like ring up a towel and you go to smack somebody with the edge of the towel, that's what that's what he looks like when he's holding the stick. Come on, man. Like, let's be real here. He's not a center.
The one thing with him taking faceoffs, though, most of the times that he's taken faceoffs, they've been after somebody got waved out. And when you go to take the second faceoff, you don't want to get a delay of game faceoff violation, so you're not as aggressive as the first guy. So I understand the reservations with not wanting to try him there. I just want to rule it out once and for all.
Mm-hmm. I understand that. Let's do it in the preseason, though.
That's a good time to do it. Then you can decide if it's okay, that actually works out perfect. Let him do it in the preseason. Yeah. And then at that point, you have an idea of whether it's an experiment worth undertaking at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At this point, I think he just needs to be okay with playing wing, go out, get some power play time, use your one timer. Just, that he's great on the power play. He's got a great one timer. Just keep being clutch in clutch situations, and the overtimes, and the, scoring those big game winners in overtime on 3-on-3, and, carrying the puck into the zone, and just keep doing that. Like, you are great. You've made a name for yourself. Everybody's talking about him this year. Mm-hmm. I mean, every national media member was talking about Martin Necas at some point this season, because he was so automatic in 3-on-3. And then when they started talking about this new 3-on-3 league that's emerging or whatever, and how that, there's people were like, oh, if Martin Necas goes and plays in that league, he'd be the Connor McDavid of that league.
He would be overnight.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being that guy. I mean, heck, that's a big role. You don't have to be a center to be great. I mean, there's a lot of great hockey players in this league right now that have big contracts and a big name for themselves from scoring goals on the wing. And I mean, I just think that's what he is. I think he needs to embrace it, own it, and go and do it. I mean, I don't know what to say about it. I just think that, like, quit. I don't know. I just wish he was listening right now. I'd be like, dude, you are great. Just go be a winger. That's just my take.
Yeah, I have no other comments than that. It was pretty much explained.
Let's see what BG says here. He says, for me, it's simple as don't reward someone who isn't willing to put the work in. He's been given the chances, has the tools and players around him, yet results are not there. I mean, I understand what you're trying to say. And if you're talking about him as a center, yes, but I think the results are there. I mean, he led this team in scoring 2 seasons ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's a 70+ points guy. He was plus 50 last year. But again, we had a deep roster last year. Lots of great players trying to get ice time. You only get 60 minutes a game. Not everybody can, you know what I mean? Not everybody can get top minutes. But I think the results are there. I just not as a center. So anyway, any other thoughts on Natchez before we move on?
Nope.
Brandon? No.
Nope.
All right. Well, moving on here to the second player who is going through arbitration. Well, real quick before we move on, let me get to BG's comment again. His follow-up, yes, as a center, defensively responsible, winning at the dot. Offensively, his game is there. He wants more, so have to give more to get that C spot. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. All right, this is the other player on this roster who's elected arbitration, Jack Drury. Again, I don't expect this to get to arbitration. I expect this to be settled here within the coming days. We know the hearings start in 10 days, right? So the arbitration hearings start July 20th, and I believe they run through August 4th. So that gives them 2 weeks there, just a little over 2 weeks. Don't expect Drury to get to arbitration. I figure they'll find a sweet spot for him. And I think as soon as we see that get taken care of, the Natchez contract get taken care of, that's when we're going to see something happen with Seth Jarvis as far as a contract. Because I think everything is on hold until they figure out these last two players before they either sign Jarvis to an 8-year contract or some 2-year bridge. We'll see with that. What do you guys think Jack's going to get? What do you think he should get based on his performance? I think that, I think he should get a little pay bump. I believe he was, making just above league minimum last year. I think this guy should be able to get 1.2, 1.3. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd give him 2 years for around that number because in the past, you and I, Griff, both have been up and down about Jack Drury. But for him to have a great year this year, he's definitely evolved as a player. So I'd give him that 2 years, feel a little safe, and make more money than you did last year and have a role on the team. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I think 1.2 is about right for him and everything. Also, I think one of the other things that we're waiting on as far as how Jack's going to be employed is, one, can he continue to stay on the wing, or two, do we move Kokanami out and he has to take up that third line center role? So, I mean, there's always that possibility too.
He needs to go away. I'm tired of that dude.
Well, I think, since you brought it up, I believe that Kotkaniemi is a better winger than Drury. And I think that Drury is a better center than KK. So I think, if they're both going to be here, I think KK needs to play the wing. I mean, I think KK's better at center than he is the wing, but I think he's also better at wing than Drury is the wing. So I think if you're going to get the best out of your roster, I think KK needs to be on the wing and Drury needs to be at center. I think that gives you the best ceiling as far as the roster is concerned.
I have an idea.
What's that?
Trade him.
Who, Drury or KK?
KK.
Well, me and Sam actually talked about that, like trading him to somewhere like San Jose, because you don't need any more defensemen. You can still trade him there and, maybe get a pick or something back, something you can flip later, maybe a B-level prospect or something, because he literally cannot make that team worse.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's too soon to give up on KK.
Oh, I do too. I'm just saying, if they were going to get rid of him, that'd be the only place that you could probably get him and not have to worry about retaining more than $800,000 of salary. Right. I'm also not ready to give up on him because this is something I actually thought about the other day. William Karlsson, when he was in the expansion draft going to the Golden Knights, dude had 6 goals the season before. And I think he put 40 in during their inaugural season. And he's been a mainstay in their lineup ever since. Sometimes some players, because we saw how well KK plays when he's on. The end of the 23 season in the playoffs, and then the start of this previous season, he was playing like not just a regular second line center, but a high end one. The type of guy you look at and say the only reason he's the 2C is because Aho's here. And then he just fell off a cliff. So I'm reluctant to give up on him because he's not just out there doing cardio. he like that shot that Varlamov stopped on him in overtime in Game 4 against the Islanders. That is the lowest probability save against the highest probability shot, and that just kind of surmised how everything has gone for the kid over that entire year. A lot of it was chronic bad luck. So hopefully he's hit the reset button, but I'm reluctant to give up on him just from that regard as well.
If he does the same thing this year, right? And I mean, when I say the same thing, I mean like nothing.
Fall off a cliff.
If he does nothing again this year, then okay, you've got to do something. I mean, you got to do it for the organization. You got to do it for the player, right? Because if he's going to figure it out, it's not going to be here, right? And again, I'm saying if he doesn't figure it out this year, but I think you give it another year, his role will have to increase, right? Given the turnover on the roster. So maybe he figures it out. And if he does, it's going to be like just a gush of offense if he figures it out.
And that's one other thing with him too is like I said, I've never seen him as a definitive second line center. I've always seen him as a middle six center that can play higher up in the lineup if he needs to and produce a little bit more than the average third line center. If I think that he settles into that third line center role and the pressure's off of him a little bit and the expectations go down a little bit, I think he'll exceed those. Yeah. Because I think you'll see more of what you saw at the beginning of the season, an eventual fall off, but nothing like what it eventually led to where he couldn't hit a soccer net. So I think that the second line center thing is out the window for him. I definitively believe that. But I think he needs to settle into that third line center, playing, 10, 12 minutes a night, 5-on-5, and being utilized in special team situations. Because for a while, KK was on the penalty kill, and that's how you know Rod really trusts somebody is if they're on the penalty kill. If he gets back to that, then he's fine.
At least start him on the third line or fourth line or wherever, right? See what happens. If he starts, if he starts playing well, then maybe you can move him up and try again. But I think we need to give it another year. And I think that, again, I think that if you have KK and Drury on this roster and you have one spot to fill at center, and who knows, maybe they'll both play center. Maybe KK will play second center or Drury will play second center and the other will play fourth. I mean, I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with Kuzi. I don't know if their plan is to put Kuzi as a second line. I mean, heck, that might be their plan for Roslovic. I don't know. Hope not, which we'll get to. But real quick, guys, before we continue this talk here, we're going to take a break and hear from our next sponsor at DraftKings. Bet the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code THPN. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. That's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets, again, expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2024, all rights reserved. All right, we're back.
Back and better than ever.
That's right. That's right.
We are back.
What you got to drink there?
This is a Liquid Death sparkling water. This particular flavor is called grapefruit, which is wordplay on grapefruit.
Oh. I haven't
See,
seen
when I first saw those, I thought they were like an alcoholic beverage because
I thought they were an energy drink.
Sparkling water or whatever, Liquid Death.
That's the point.
It looks like an energy drink to me when I first saw it.
It's a marketing genius.
It is. And it's also kind of false advertising because I ain't dead yet. But it's like, it's good stuff, though.
You better
Like
knock on wood. Don't you jinx yourself.
No, the lemon is my favorite flavor, actually.
All right, guys. A couple more things to get to here, and then we'll talk the roster as a whole, give our thoughts on, what we think it's going to look like if all remains as is. And we'll just see where it takes us. A couple players, they're not things, they are players.
Hey,
that we have signed.
Treading on thin ice there, pal.
Hey. We're not going there. A couple players that we have signed since the last time we talked, right? So it was announced that Josiah Slavin, and if that name rings a bell, it's because, yes, it is Jacob's brother, has been signed to a two-way deal. I believe 2 years, two-way deal with the organization, likely playing in Chicago. He was a Toronto Marley last season, so he does have some AHL experience. It'll be cool to see these guys, I mean, at least in the preseason, play together on the same sheet of ice for the Canes. And before we see probably Josiah ship off to Chicago to play with the Wolves this season. But great signing. This organization loves Jacob Slavin. They made this happen for him, for the family. And I think it's awesome. So
sounds like the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah, there's a bunch of those guys running around. I think there was one played in California somewhere too at one point, but anyway, I think there's 3 of them. Anyway, forget that. We're not talking basketball, but yeah, Josiah Slavin signed with the organization on a 2-way contract. Also, one that I wasn't expecting late last week, Jack Roslovic signed to a 1-year, $2.8 million contract, basically a prove-it contract. I don't know what you guys think about Roslovic, but he was a high draft pick when he, in his draft year. I don't remember what year that was, but it was like maybe 2017 or 18.
I believe it was 2018.
18.
Something like that.
High draft pick, and he had 2 good seasons right out the gate. I mean, for a rookie and a new young player, had 2 good seasons, scored over 10 goals, showed a lot of promise, and then just never has been able to recapture that. It's some of the organizations that he's playing for, especially in Columbus, kind of hard to recapture that the last few years. But he did show some signs of upside, I guess, with the Rangers. Now, he was playing top line with Zibanejad and Kreider. He was playing opposite Kreider on the wing. Scored some goals in that series against Carolina. And we'll see what he is. Your thoughts on Jack Roslovic?
Yeah, can you guys hear me? My internet's like not doing very well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you froze for a second, but now you're good to go. He's doing it again.
Yeah, he's froze again. Go ahead, Brandon. Your thoughts on Roslovic?
So this to me is kind of what you could potentially get out of Roslovic at a minimum. You get another Jesper Foss type of player, one of those utilitarian dudes you can move up and down the lineup. High outside chance that he plays center. I think that he's going to be a winger for the duration of his time in Carolina, unless we just absolutely need him to play the center position. I mean, he's a pretty dynamic player. He's kind of got a jack of all trades type of thing. He's pretty good. He's a really good skater. I think that we lost AB.
I just took him off the stage till something's going.
Unfreezes.
Yeah, so he's not just sitting there staring at us.
Yeah, because he was really he was looking at me really hard. But I'm okay with the signing of the AAV is a little high, but it's only 1 season, so it's not that big of a deal. But it is definitely an opportunity just to kind of see if he can reach that ceiling that everyone knew that he had. So I'm curious to see what happens with this. And if it is a mistake, it's one we don't have to live with for very long. And he's also good enough of a player if we just needed to move him out. If he ended up getting waived, somebody somewhere would pick him up. I really think. We've got an AHL affiliate now, so that's not a problem either if he did clear waivers. So I'm all right with this signing. I don't think it's anything. It's a low risk, high reward signing. It's probably not going to be anything groundbreaking. If nothing else, you're getting a good middle six winger that you can move up and down the lineup as you need to, like we've done with Jesper Fast. And that's someone else I'm hoping to hear something about soon.
Yeah, reports on Quickie aren't good. From what I understand, as recent as like 3 weeks ago, he's been seen wearing the neck brace still.
That's not good.
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
that's
nothing official. That's just rumor spread on X, people that have seen him around Raleigh.
Well, that's one of the reasons we got what Roslovic then probably was just in case, because if nothing else, you could put him with Martinook and Stahl, and he could fill that role. So
he could. I think he's got the potential to be a goal scorer though. Maybe he'll do well in the system. I think it's a good. I mean, it's a solid pickup. I hated it at first. I was like, "What are we doing?" But it's kind of grown on me, and I've thought that if it works out, great. And if it doesn't work out, and for some reason we are sitting outside of the playoffs at the trade deadline, and maybe you send him off to go, just like somebody, like he did with New York last year, and you get something for him. I don't expect that to be the case. I think we're going to be a playoff team.
Yeah, I'm thinking Metro 3 or Wild Card 1 at least. I mean, this team is not bad by any means.
No, it's definitely. I mean, it's going to take a little bit more effort. It's not going to be a 110-point team, but look, if the 2023-2024 Washington Capitals can make the playoffs, the 24-25 Carolina Hurricanes can definitely make the playoffs.
I agree. I absolutely agree, because we're still going to be better than the Islanders. New Jersey got a lot better, but I still think that we'll be within 4 points of them, whether it's up or down. It's this team is not going to be that bad. Like, we replaced our second pair with a really, really good third pair and bumped our third pair up to second just fine. And we managed to replace them with ultimately less money than we would have had to have pay Brady Shea or Brett Pesce on an individual basis when you're talking about Walker and Gostisbehere. And we already know Gostisbehere is a good fit.
Hey,
I don't know what happened, dude. My internet's just terrible upstairs, so I had to resort to this. So if it's bad mic quality, my apologies.
No, the mic quality is fine, and the picture's actually a whole lot better.
You just froze. You were just staring.
You were just gone.
Yeah, it's been doing that recently, but yeah, I don't know what's going on. But anyways,
real quick, we're talking Roslovic, and real quick, BTS Not the Band. How you doing, buddy? Glad you're back. He says what we are doing with Roslovic is the same thing we did with TDA. Yeah, basically, except Roslovic costs a lot more money than that TDA contract did. Double, almost triple.
Less controversy too.
Yeah. Even though somebody tried to stir it up on X the other day.
Oh God, don't even get me started on that.
Did you guys see that,
bro? That was the first thing I saw when I logged back in after I got back from Charleston.
Oh man, yeah, somebody was going in. So, I'm not getting into it.
No, we'll save that for my show.
Anyway, somebody was trying. You know what, BTS? That kind of makes it even more similar to the TDA trial, right? There we go. Oh, you can't make this stuff up, guys. You cannot make
the
this
TDA trial is great. That's awesome.
All right. Anyway, so Roslovic, yeah, we'll see what he ends up being. Maybe he'll come in and find it, and Rod Brindamore is good at getting the best out of players, and maybe look, if you score 15 goals, that's success, man.
That's right,
in my opinion. But yeah, so Jack Roslovic, Carolina Hurricane, didn't see that one coming. All right, moving on. I had a couple other things to talk about here. But we'll just get right into it, right? So these rosters, if everything stays the same, right? If the players that are currently part of this organization remain part of this organization, and there's no more there's no trades, there's no more free agent signings or anything like that. And now you can take anybody you want. You can take anybody that's, if they are signed with the organization, not playing overseas, you can include them if you would like to.
Okay.
We'll start with the goalies. We're going to start with the goalies, then we're going to go to the defense, and then we're going to finish up with the forwards. Who is your starting goalie? Night 1, opening night against Tampa Bay Lightning.
Cooch.
Kochetkov.
Agree. Kochetkov. All right. Anderson is number 2.
Mm-hmm.
I heard somebody say, I don't remember who it was.
What'd you hear?
Somebody said, if you want to run them 1A, 1B, and rotate, right? Just do a steady rotation throughout the season. Give them, you could do a 55-45 split. You could do a 60-40. You could do a 50-50. But game 1 of round 1 of the playoffs, Kochetkov needs to be the guy.
Yep.
Right? I heard somebody say that. I don't remember who it was. I don't remember if it was on the radio or if I read. Maybe I read it. But I think I thought that just hit home with me. I was like, yeah. Roll Freddie. Maybe Freddie goes 40% and Kochetkov goes 60%.
Mm-hmm.
And that way Freddie can stay healthy throughout the year. But yeah, Kochetkov, I think, needs to be your guy game 1 of the playoffs, no matter what happens throughout the regular season. But I would give him opening night. He would be my starting goalie. Night
100%.
1.
It's time to give him a chance. I mean, we talked about this with Dennis on the last live stream. You signed him to this contract that was 4 years, around $8 million total. But a year, $2 million. It's clear the team has faith in him, and it's clear that Rod likes him, management likes him. So it's time. I mean, he's young, and I used to always have the problem with, you see these guys that are like Vasilevsky, Bobrovsky, Shesterkin, Hellebuck. They start multiple games. They're consecutive. And my problem was, why can't we find a guy like that? Now, I understand because Kochetkov's young. Anderson, this will probably be his last contract with Carolina, in my opinion. So it's kind of time to stick with one guy. And you have a guy that's 23 years old and has a ton of potential. So yeah, 60-40.
Yeah, I don't think you need to overwork either of them. They're both capable. I think that Kochetkov's high end is higher, right? He's got a higher ceiling. We've seen it. Like, this guy gets on these runs and it's just amazing. I mean, he gets on runs where he doesn't lose. Unless the team lets him down, but he doesn't lose. He goes on these insane runs where he doesn't lose because it's his fault. And I think the team feeds off of his energy in the net, like the way he plays, and he plays with it on edge, and I think the team feeds off that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know if Freddie, if this is his last year here. I mean, maybe if Freddie wants to stay and the team can get him on a cheap $2 million deal, maybe they do. Maybe they say, hey, you come be our second, our backup Kochetkov. So that's always a possibility. But I think that Frederick Anderson being the number 1 in this organization, I believe those days are over.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I say that, but knowing Brenda Moore's tendencies, sometimes it's very possible that we roll another year riding Freddie with Kochetkov as the backup. So be prepared for that, because that's a very high possibility. But me personally, it's time to roll with Cooch, right? He's ready. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see him have 50 games of the 82.
Yeah.
And because then Freddie only playing 32 in the event that you do need him to take on some a bunch of starts in the playoffs. 32 games over the course of the entire season isn't a whole lot, even for Freddie. So that's what I would like to see is him start 50 games. He being Kochetkov.
Yeah, agree. All right, the defense. So I think my mic just cut out. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So the defense, what are your projections? Again, all things remaining the same, no more moves through the offseason. What are your defensive pairs, and who is your seventh going into opening night?
Well, obviously Slavin's going to be on the top line, and then the alpha male is going to be on the top line. I've honestly thought about this for a little bit. I think maybe you go back to Ghost and Chatfield on the second line. I think that may not be a bad idea. However, Orlov figured everything out with Chatfield. So, if it doesn't work, go back to Chatfield and Orlov immediately. And of course, Walker is going to be on the third line, in my opinion. And seventh defenseman, I really think you got to go with Morrow as your seventh defenseman as of right now. Yeah, that's where I'd put him.
Okay.
So I actually have been giving this a lot of thought because we have two distinct sample sizes here. When it comes to Chatfield and Gostisbehere, we saw how they played together a season ago. Really good pair. And then you saw Chatfield and Orlov once they found their stride and everything. Really good pair.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Chatfield makes whoever is on his left better. He is just that type of player. It's the same thing with Jacob Slavin. He makes whoever is on his right better. So if he's paired with an offensively minded guy, they're going to be able to do their thing because they have a safety valve there for them. I think you will see both those combinations in regards to Chatfield and Gostisbehere and Chatfield and Orlov tried to see which one ultimately works better. I think that you could put Sean Walker and Dmitry Orlov together if you had to. And you can shuffle things up as needed for the penalty kill and everything like that. I think you try them both. I think to start out, though, let's go ahead and stick with Chatty and Orlov because we know that works. If the defense starts going cold, then you can swap the bottom four however you want to. Slavin and Burns are not going to come apart. I can promise you that already. So, and part of that is because that pair works really well. And if we do see a little bit more of a slip from Burns, he needs to have Slavin out there to take care of him. Mm-hmm. So, multitude of reasons that you're not going to break that pair up. Now, as far as a seventh defenseman goes, I think that's actually going to be more often than not Ty Smith because they want Morrow to start getting minutes down in the minors because he's jumping from – this is what we were talking about during the playoffs last season when Brett Pesce got hurt and people were wanting him in the lineup. Jumping from the NCAA to the National Hockey League in the playoffs, that is a big jump, and there are very few players who can make it. And people would say, but what about Cale Makar? What about Charlie McAvoy? Those are the exceptions, not the rule. Scott Morrow is a great player, but I'd rather give him some time to marinate in the minors and come up to the show and be ready. Scott Morrow is going to be a great player. I definitely think he's going to be the guy that's ultimately on the right of Slavin if it's not Sean Walker. But he needs to just learn to quarterback the power play in the AHL and then eventually do it in the NHL. That's a big responsibility. He's a big kid. He's got the potential to be another Brady Shea type player. So you could have him killing penalties in a couple of seasons, if not sooner, if he really improves and refines the defensive side of his game as he did at UMass. It came a long way. I watched a lot of his games. Mm-hmm. So that's my personal thought on it, is that the bottom four, we'll see a little bit of a shuffle. Slavin and Burns stays together. I really don't think there's a wrong answer there. They did an excellent job replacing Pesce and Shea with players that will give comparable results. And a lot of people don't know a whole lot about Sean Walker. I didn't even know he was on our radar. I'm really happy about that signing.
I totally forgot about Ty Smith. Yeah, I'll put him seventh defenseman. I totally forgot about that dude.
Yeah, I Slavin Burns, but I will say that I think Orlov and Chatfield are going to play together, and I think they should. The results that they had in the playoffs, I mean, they were that pair, that defensive pair, was one of the top-rated defensive pairs in all the playoffs.
Their XGA was incredibly low. I think it was sub.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Orlov came alive in the playoffs. I mean,
if Orlov starts getting shots through, done.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
about yeah.
he had a off year offensively last season. I think a part of that was him. He was focused so hard on trying to learn the defensive assignments and play that way.
Mhm.
Right. We saw him. He got off to a very slow start defensively.
Mhm.
But once he figured it out, I mean, he was off to the races. But I think that part of that was the reason he kind of was off offensively. Expect Orlov to have a better offensive year this year,
Mhm.
especially playing with Chatfield. I think you stay with that. I mean, the good thing is we know that if you have to go to Ghost, if something's not working and you want to move Ghost up to play with Chatfield, they've done it before and they're going to have some, they'll be able to develop chemistry a little bit quicker because they've done it before.
Mhm.
So, but I think Gossespierre and Walker is a great third pair. And I mean, you could say it's a third pair. It could be a second pair on a lot of teams. And I expect all three of these lines to get equivalent minutes.
Mhm.
5-on-5, that's what's been happening the last few
Yeah.
years is all the pairs are getting equal minutes, because this is one of the things I love about how Carolina builds their defense. They don't build it 1-2-3. They build it left, right, left, shut down guy with a puck mover. And it works really well because you can equal out their minutes 5-on-5. And then Slavin and Burns kill penalties fine together. Orlov and Chatfield will be fine being that second power play kill, or excuse me, that second kill. And then for the third pair, Walker and Gossespierre, I'm going to have to see it in action. Gossespierre is one of those guys I don't like seeing on the penalty kill if you don't have to have him. That being said, I'm really happy to have him back, because don't be surprised if you start seeing him on the first power play unit at times if it really needs a spark. Because
100%.
when they brought him here the first time, he managed to breathe some life back into our power play when they brought him in from Arizona, because it was dead. Our power play was awful then. And Gossespierre came in with those nifty little shifty saucer passes that he does and how good he is at walking the blue line and everything and getting the silent wrister through traffic and everything, and brought some life back to it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I expect him to quarterback the first power play. And you could Brent Burns can do the second. You've got Orlov, who has experience doing it. And from what I understand, Sean Walker has some offensive upside too. I don't know if he's ever quarterbacked a power play, but
I think he could do it.
I'm sure he could do it, right?
I haven't seen him play that much.
So he gives you close to about the defense you got with Brett Pesce, but he shoots a puck more than 2 miles an hour, which also helps.
That's true.
He has a little bit of an offensive upside. Like when you're talking about him being if he's a third pair defenseman, he's a highbrow third pair defenseman. But that's the thing with Carolina. It's like a first pair and two really good second pairs. That's why they distribute the minutes between them 5-on-5 relatively evenly.
Go watch his highlights from the playoffs this year with Colorado, mainly the Winnipeg series. He was very good.
Oh, he got traded mid-season to Colorado. Yeah,
he was very good in that Winnipeg series. Put up a little. Just go watch his highlights. And then I agree with you. Ty Smith is probably our third. I agree with putting Morrow in Chicago to let him develop. If you bury him in the press box every night, that's not good for his development.
No, he needs to. And then in the event that someone gets injured,
put him back.
He'll come up and get some minutes. He will play at some point this season.
Yeah,
I guarantee you.
Agree. All right, to the forwards. So I will let you guys go first, and I'll finish up at the end.
Man, the first line was a little tricky on the right wing, for me at least. Obviously, Svech and Aho are your top guys, so you want them on the first line.
Do you want me to go first?
He may go. Yeah, you go first. I have to think a little bit more. I have to think a little bit more.
All right. So hear me out here. 2 rookies make the roster. Okay? 2 rookies, in my opinion. That's Felix Unger-Sorum and Bradley Nadeau. Right? Whether they're ready, maybe they're not. I think it's necessary, and I think ultimately it's going to be good for him to play this season, and basically next year or the year after when they start getting closer to their prime, their mid-20s, they've got a couple years under their belt, assuming health, all that good stuff. So what I said earlier is I wouldn't bury these guys in the lineup. If they're going to be on the roster, I'm going to put them in position to succeed, right? So with that, my first line is going to be Sebastian Aho centering Andrei Svechnikov and Felix Ungersorum. Right? I think that Felix Ungersorum is a good playmaker. He's a good passer. Again, like we said, he's a Teravainen comparable. Put him on Aho's wing. Maybe he develops some chemistry with Aho and Svech, and they light it up. And then, you put Svech up. Keep Svech up there for some, heaviness on that line. My second line, I'm going to have Evgeny Kuznetsov play second line center. Okay? I think that if you're going to have him on this roster, you need to put him in position to succeed as well. Don't bury him on your fourth line, play in wing. Okay? Put him up there, let him do his thing. I think that well, let me back up. I screwed this up because I did this. This is what I did, assuming Natchez would be traded.
Mm-hmm. That's what I did. Hold on, let me move.
So,
air conditioning.
If Natchez stays, then I'm gonna put. Where did he go?
He said he was moving something real quick.
Moving something.
Okay. So if Natchez stays, okay, then Jarvis is going to bump up on that first line with Svech and Aho. Okay. Then your second line, I'm still going to have Kuzi there, right? I'm going to have Natchez play in the wing and Nadeau play in the other wing. Now, some people say that's a defensive nightmare. Okay, that's fine. Then put Natchez on Aho's wing. So Svech, Aho, Natchez. Second line, Nadeau, Kuzi, Jarvis. Third line, Carrier, Jack Drury, Jack Roslovic. Right? And then my fourth line is Martinuk, Stahl, and KK. And then Jesper Fast, I'm assuming is not going to be on I'm assuming he's going to be on LTIR opening night because that's what everything is pointing to. So that is my top six. Again, Svech, Aho, Natchez, Nadeau, Kuzi, Jarvis, Carrier, Drury, Roslovic, Martinuk, Stahl, KK. Call me crazy.
I don't think that's crazy.
No,
Mine's not too dissimilar.
Let's hear it.
Alrighty, let me find it. It's somewhere in my notes here because I wrote it down this morning.
You want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead while I'm looking this up.
Yeah, I like Griff's first line because obviously Nate just wants to have top line minutes, and why not just be like, hey, you're not going to play center. However, here you are on the top line. So I like that decision. Kuzi obviously needs to be your second line center. I'd say put Jarvis on the right wing, obviously. And I would put Martinuk on the second line. Call me crazy.
No, that's fine.
Third line, I would say Jack Drury, William Carrier, and Felix Ungersorum. Because I want Ungersorum to play with a guy who has size that can stick up for him. And then fourth line, I'd put Roslovic on the right wing, Nadeau on the left, and then Jordan Stahl at center.
That's yeah. That's solid.
Sorry,
Did
KK.
Yeah, I was about to say, what are you going to do with KK?
No,
Is he going to the press box?
Yep.
KK doesn't exist in
Is
AB land.
Is he going to be sitting up there with Quickie up in the press box?
Yep.
Throwing popcorn at the press row?
Yes.
All right.
So here's what I have. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about with the defense, how the Hurricanes go for an equal distribution. Now, this isn't an equal distribution throughout the entire depth chart with the forwards, but more so kind of an equal distribution with your top 6 players and your bottom 6 players. So I wrote down the centers first, and then I built it out from there. So here's what I have for a top line. I have Svechnikov on the left wing, Aho centering, and Jarvis. That way you get that chemistry between Aho and Jarvis, and you get the size and a little bit of the enforcer role, the net front presence, and the physicality from Svechnikov. Then essentially you have your 3 best forwards front loaded until you get to the second line, and that's where I also have Evgeny Kuznetsov as the second line center because you need someone to make some magic happen. And then you have the concerns about, well, that would be a defensive liability if he was with Natchez. But at the that's why I was like, okay, if you want to, you can swap them. But I would say put Natchez with Kuznetsov and have Bradley Nadeau with them. Yes, defensive nightmare, but the rest of the team is defensively competent. One of the things that I enjoyed when Gensel first got here and when Kuznetsov first got here, the first time they tried that line with those two in Natchez, and I was like, finally, we have a line that rolls out there for an offensive zone faceoff and would terrify just about any team in the league. We need at least one line like that. And that would be a good way to expose Nadeau to the league, putting him with those guys who have that really good playmaking ability, and both of them play relatively fast games, especially Natchez. And Nadeau does as well. He likes to look for open ice a lot like Jason Robertson does. So that's where I'd put him. For the third line, this is temporary probably. Felix Ungersorm to the left of Jesperi Kotkaniemi and William Carrier to the right. If not Carrier, Roslovic. But I would put Carrier there because he's going to fill that Steph Nason type of role. And make that note there because I had something else written down here, but I don't want to share it with you guys. I feel like it was a stupid idea. But I would like to see Felix Ungersorm, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and William Carrier. Then Felix Ungersorm has that veteran presence as well around him to start developing. And then eventually I think he'll move up the lineup into the top 6. He'll definitely be on the power play on the hop, just like Bradley Nadeau. And then for the fourth line, this would also probably be temporary. Jordan Martinook, Jordan Stahl, and Jack Roslovic. The only reason I don't have Jack Drury in this is I think Jack Drury will go in where basically the third line center role there, I think that's KK or Jack, one of the two. So it depends on who's better of those guys that's in the press box. But at least in this way, I feel like all the centers are in their definitive role, and you can move the wings up and down the lineup as you need to.
Yeah, that's solid. I like that. We will see. Yeah, soon. It's July 10th. In 2 months, we're going to be talking about camp.
Yeah, we're going to buy our plane tickets to Tampa on Friday.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we're going
awesome.
there because like I asked her if she wanted to go to Raleigh, and then she was like, well, isn't that game in Tampa? I'm like, no, the one the next day's in Tampa. I was like, hey, you want to just go to that? We've been saying that we wanted to go to Florida again. And she's like, yeah, sure. And I was like, okay, cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to fly down on like the Thursday before that, find a watch party somewhere to watch the game that you guys will be at in Raleigh. And then we're going to go to the game in Tampa Saturday night.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
One more comment I want to get to, and then I'm going to give a little thought here, and then we'll get out of here. BTS says, I was on X, and other teams' fans were saying the Canes fell apart this offseason, and I'm over here thinking, where? I think we did a fantastic job replacing guys. Yeah. So here's the thing about other teams' fans. They don't watch this team every night like we do, right? They get a sample size in the playoffs, and what they see is, this team that is, that has scoring dry up in the playoffs. And they look at the players that we have, and they say, oh, well, obviously they took a step back because they couldn't score in the playoffs. Even though we did score this last playoffs, it was goaltending that let us down. They say, okay, well, they lost all their, they lost Brady Shea, who's a, their top scoring defenseman. They lost Jake Gensel, who scored a ton. They lost Steph Nason, who was their net front guy, who scored a lot of depth goals. They lost, all these people. But they don't really see that scoring on this team is very, very spread out, right? Everybody gets their goals for the most part on this team, and it's because of the way they play, right? They get a lot of shots from the blue line. A lot of their goals come off as second chance rebounds, things like that. Net front, right? Getting to the dirty areas, cause chaos in front of the net, all that stuff, right? So, so I don't know if it matters, right? Because you still have Aho, you still have Svechnikov, you still have Jarvis. That's a ton of goals right there, right? You still have Martin Necas at this moment. That's still a lot of goals, right? The guys that scored goals for the last 3-4 years are the same guys still on this roster, except for Brady Shea, right? Who really the last 2 years has scored a lot of goals. But Shane Gostisbehere is fully capable of outscoring Brady Shea, right? He did last year. I think
Gostisbehere's shot through percentage is higher anyway.
Absolutely.
He's going to put more pucks on net than Brady Shea did.
Absolutely. So, I don't really think – I think that the team is – I think the team is going to score just at the same rate they have, right? Defense might take a small step back initially. I expect it to rebound, though. Brett Pesce and Brady Shea played in this organization for a long time. They knew the system, right? It's obviously not going – it's going to take a small step back. The defense, the blue line is initially. But, I could see us still second, third in the Metro. Easy. I believe that I don't think New York got better. The Rangers.
No.
The Rangers didn't get better, right? The Devils, yeah, I guess they got better, but I don't know. I'm still not a big believer in New Jersey. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know if Pesce is what he used to be.
No.
I think New Jersey thinks he is something more than what he is. And, I'm not a big Jack Hughes believer. Sheldon Keefe being there, like, I don't know. New Jersey is a coin toss at this point. They could be the President's Trophy winner, or they could miss the playoffs as sixth in the Metro again.
So I do have a little bit of a hot take when it comes to New Jersey. If you ask just about anybody on this planet who's the best forward that New Jersey has, they're going to say Jack Hughes. You know who I say it is? I say Nico Hischier, because that guy's game is complete. He does everything well. And a lot of fans, whether they're casuals or hardcore ones that sit down and watch all 82 games in playoffs, they look at the flashiness that Jack Hughes plays with, how skilled he is, and look at the numbers he puts up and automatically assume he's the best guy on the team. When honestly, he's kind of Martin Necas is kind of like that for us. He doesn't put up those types of numbers. But anyone who looks at it and says, I don't think anybody's going to say that Martin Necas is better than Sebastian Aho. So it's kind of the same situation in that regard. So me personally, when it comes to New Jersey, I fear Nico Hischier way more than I fear Jack Hughes.
Yep. I agree. And the thing, here's something else I was thinking about. And this, then we'll get out of here. I'll give you the last thought, AB, and then we'll get out of here. But I think that this roster, this upcoming season, is better depth-wise than the roster 2 seasons ago after Svechnikov was hurt. Pacioretty was hurt. Kasha played 1 game. Teravainen went out early in the first round with a broken thumb, right? We brought in, what's that kid's name that we signed?
Jesse
Pugliarvi, but there's another kid that we brought in from St. Louis, McCackern.
Mackenzie McCackern.
Yeah, who came in and had a really good couple games. But I think this roster is better than the roster that we rode to the Eastern Conference Final 2 seasons ago. I believe that. Do you agree with me there?
Well, For the most part, yes. And I'm going to add one caveat to what you're saying about people who don't watch this team and they just take a small sample size. Because, like, when I want to know something about someone from another team that I don't know much about, I ask someone.
Right.
You know that people don't keep up with what's really going on with the Hurricanes when they downplay how big of a piece Alexander Nikishin is going to be.
Yes.
And throw him in trade packages.
Yes.
That make zero sense for both sides, especially us. And I hate to brag about this, but I have the 2 highest viewed videos about Alexander Nikishin in the English-speaking world that are not just highlights. And they have the audacity to try and tell me the value of Alexander Nikishin.
Yeah.
So that's how you know they don't really follow the team. If I don't know much about a prospect, I'll say so. There was some kid that drew for the Islanders in the playoffs last year. I couldn't pronounce his name. I didn't know who he was. I didn't try and pretend that I did.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, you're spot on with that. And this team, it's going to be rough for a couple of months, I think. But once they figure it out, they're going to be fine. They're incredibly well coached. It might be a bumpy ride at first, but I still think that they're going to be an M3 or wildcard 1 team, if not better.
Yeah.
And if you think that this team that we had this past season or the one before that on paper was good, the one we're going to have 2 to 3 seasons from now, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh, man.
Embrace this year being a little bit of a retool. Embrace this being a figure it out year.
Next season.
Yeah.
Not this coming season, the one after, when Nikishin gets here.
It's worth the wait because the moves that we made and the players that we let go in free agency, we avoided a serious retool. We avoided a rebuild for maybe as long as a decade with the signings that we had last season and getting the stuff with the AHL affiliate sorted out.
Yeah.
We're in a good spot.
I mean, the cap space that we have after the season 2 is, I mean, we I mean, we have guys under contract now for, I mean, most of the guys that we brought in are 2-3 year deals. There's a couple guys on 1 year, but I mean, for the most part, like the core is going to be here next year, and we're going to add to that core. And Nikishin comes in, and we're going to have we're going to have more cap space next season, and you can bring in, and to be honest, the free agent pool next year is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
And Orlov's money's coming off the books if we decide we don't want to keep him. Burns' money is coming off the books if we decide we don't want to keep him. Kuzi.
That's $13 million right there in between Orlov and Burns. Right? And then you've got
another 4 with Kuzi.
There you go. And then you got Nikishin coming in on probably just above league minimum. You've got Scott Morrow that might be ready that season. There's your replacements right there. 2 capable guys that can play on the blue line, and Slavin's still there, or Chatfield's still there, Walker and Gossesbear still there, right? And then your core forwards are still there. Kochetkov's still here. You've got a ton of money to spend on a lot of high end pieces. I'm just saying.
And a lot of those UFAs are pretty young too. Most of them are under 28, depending on which ones make it to free agency and don't. So.
Yep. All right, AB, any thoughts? Any last thoughts here before we get out of here?
We'll just have to see. Thank you so much for watching and listening to session 50 of Caniac Sessions. Can't believe it's already been 50 sessions, which is crazy. You can listen to us on any podcast platforms, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching us right now on the live stream, you can watch it again if you missed it. Click the like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell to not miss anything that we put out. If you want to keep up with Brandon, you can follow him on X at The Warning Take, or you can check out his YouTube channel. I highly recommend you do at The Warning Take. If you want to keep up with Griff on X, you can keep up with him on his personal at M_Griff10. If you want to keep up with me on X, it's AB Caniac Session. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we will see you in session 51.
That's right. Bye.